Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota, which for some reason still has clients, despite my best efforts. And here we are. I do apologize. Today is a little bit later than usual. It will probably be a little bit shorter than usual. If you have something to get off your chest, do it now. Like a mastectomy or whatever. No, it's there's not a huge amount going on in the world today. Let me answer your questions right now because I've got the gift. No, the transcript still ain't done. It's not done. Ain't happening. Tina just decides, I guess, when she's going to do the job, and her decision is not yet. So, no. So there's no transcript. And interestingly, nor is there a findings of fact and conclusions of law from Chupp. Old Chupperino. His findings of fact and conclusions of law were due, I think, yesterday, since they were filed for on the 26th. And then he had 20 days from the 26th to ask, to do that, which I think was the 16th, but with calendars they got numbers and you got to count them. So let's say it's the 17th. That would have been today. That would have been the 20th day, but I'm pretty sure the 16th was the 20th day. And no, there's nothing from Chupp either. Now, I'm sure it's not that judges are sometimes terrible people, because I've been learning from Law Twitter that judges are always right. Actually, not really from Law Twitter. I won't even discredit those cut rate nobodies and say that they think that judges are always right, but their orbiters do. Now, I don't mean to talk so much about Twitter, but I have been peeking in on Twitter every now and then, and the reason is simple. You can always tell when some people are bothered because they just do a lot of twittering. Like the twittering ramps up when their confidence is waning, it seems. So I don't know. But there's some big stuff to talk about. And one of the things, sneak preview. I think I talked about this, but here it is, sneak preview. We've got defendant's cross notice of appeal. It's a very, very impressive one-page document. We're going to read through it. I don't know that that we did the read through in the live stream, but maybe we did, and I don't remember. It's possible, but there's a reason we're going to talk about it. There's another reason we're going to talk about it. So, and that's not a one-page notice of appeal. This is just the notice of the appeal from the defendants. That's not like indicative of its quality or anything like that. This notice of appeal is fine, but we're going to talk about that notice of appeal, and we're going to talk about what's maybe more interesting. There are two absent notices of appeal. I don't know if people are thinking through that as much as I am. One of those kind of makes some sense, right? Like Jamie Markey, I guess, got her fees paid. She got ham-boned, which no, that would make her happy. She got tossed a little bit on sanctions, but she got the fees she asked for. So maybe she doesn't want to appeal it and press her luck and pay her attorney more to do that appeal. But Funimation lost 120 grand apparently in appeals, you know, in fees that they were not awarded. And they didn't appeal that. Which seems weird because the Court of Appeals is going through this and Funimation will be present. Like, they don't get to avoid the appeal process, but they didn't appeal their award of 50 grand. That's a little baffling, right? So we're going to speculate on those things a little bit. I wonder, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going through their head, but I know that, well, I guess maybe they think they have 30 days to appeal. I don't think so. Should be 20. It's the expedited process. Huh. We'll look at it. I don't know. Don't know. We can only guess these things until something actually happens or continues to not happen. But I find it very, very interesting that that's out there. So let's get into this. Oh, and then I have a couple other things we might get to tonight. We might not. I don't know. It's going to depend on how I feel, how you guys are doing. I know this is December, man. Everybody's busy in December. You've got Christmas. You've got you're coming off of Thanksgiving. Families are running all over the place. The snow is starting to be ruinous. Apparently, you got tornadoes in some places. December's a weird month, and so I don't want to kill everybody with content on December. You know. But I'm still doing all these shows, but we're not going to push. Like last night was a bit much. 6 hours? That was a lot of show. It was a great show, I thought. But, you know, that's me. I've got narcissism issues or whatever. That's not true. I've not been diagnosed with narcissism. But if I did, I'd have it more than anybody else. But I don't know. We're not going to push to 6 hours every night. There'll be some twitchery after this stream. Oh, but the other things I have, let's get to that. Trump wrote a letter to Nancy Pelosi, which I thought maybe that'd be fun to read because Trump's about to get impeached. And so he wrote a letter to Nancy Pelosi, just kind of screaming at her, which is great. She deserves it. So I thought maybe we could read Trump's letter. That might be a good little laugh track. And then someone sent me a video of a lawyer doing some depositions, or just some clips of some depositions from this one particular lawyer. And I think it was both in the same case. And I don't know, it's kind of funny. He's a complete cockbag in the deposition room, so that's good. So we could maybe talk about that and watch that. I don't know if we're going to do that. No, I'm not the rapping lawyer. Oh yeah, the fan email. Yes. We're going to read the fan email. When I say that Trump's about to be impeached, being impeached just means that articles of impeachment are drafted and filed in the House. And voted upon in the House. Whether or not the Senate, removes someone from office is a separate question. I think Trump will get impeached. Maybe. Will the Senate remove him from office? I highly, highly doubt it. Highly, highly doubt that. So where should we start? Should we go ahead and start with the I could pull up this fan letter I got. This is good too. Where did that go? Where do we go? Where is that? Oh, come on. Hold on. I'm going to find it. Someone let me know I could get Monica Rial to say whatever I want for $30 on Cameo.com. Might be funny. Which one was this? Oh. Whew! This is such a long letter. How do I... No, I want it. This is so annoying. All right, we're going to do this because I want to protect this person's email address. I'm going to have to do this kind of in an annoying way. I apologize. We'll do it in a series of snips. All right, let me censor this guy's email address. Oh, come on. Although I think this might be like a Proton Mail account or something. Who knows? I didn't even look at it. Let's get this over here. And we'll do this. We'll do this, and we'll do the Vic thing. Then we'll do the other stuff. How's that? Because I was talking about doing this fan letter last night. I got completely sidetracked. Let's read. We got a couple super chats queued up here. We've got one from My Room Records, which says, Fatsmas Carols is only available for $4.99 through Friday. Let's chart this thing, fatsmas.fun. Now, I know there's some drama between Dame Pesos and My Room Records, and I'll be straight up front. I don't care about the drama. I really don't. Like, I'm not involved in it. Don't care about it. Not interested in it. I see I'm a gay centrist or whatever on it. I just don't. I'm so tired of like people fighting in these little communities and mucking funny things up. So whatever. If the drama pushes you away, the drama pushes you away. My Room Records has always been a good guy to me. Like I said, he wrote and performed the Whiskey Drinking Lawyer song, to which I'm eternally grateful. I don't have anything against Dame Pesos. My interactions with him are more limited, but he's always been funny. So there you go. I don't care. Don't have a side, but I do think that you can check out Fatsmas Carols, enjoy Fatsmas Carols, and if you want to, just pick it up for $5 and have some fun little holiday themed comedy. So there you go. Next we've got Arcane Sidious says, first $20 Justice Chat. Hey, thanks, man. Check your email about the 2019 apple pie moonshine and shipping issues. I have it in the box ready to go. Side note, I'm willing to do the cuck stream. No hidden identity. May the Emperor protect me from the chat. Oh, well then. Maybe we can arrange that. Maybe we can arrange a cuck stream. And talk to Arcane Sidious about the cuckening. All right. Next, we've got RZEQDW says, can I come hang out during live chat Wednesday tomorrow? Also reply in Discord because I will be sleeping during your stream. My flight leaves at 6 effing a.m. Yeah. I think so. I'll message you on Discord. You could come, or as my friend DJD says, Discord. Little different emphasis than some people. Yeah, man, come in, hang out in the vault. We'll drink whiskey or something. I can't drink too much because it's daytime. But we have some snacks. Yeah. Why am I talking to you? You're not even here. You're sleeping. Okay. Anyway, so that's that. Let's get into this. This is this. Here is the first part of the email, and we'll read the rest. But you can see it was sent to Rekieta Law at rekieta.org. I got this yesterday. It is really ironic that you probably won't even read this. I mean, I read most emails that I get, unless I'm really, really busy. The ignorant masses drown out any intelligent conversation that could ever be had. Don't you see that free speech eventually becomes the lowest common denominator speech? Mob speech. Speech that only the ignorant masses agree with. Only the wise and the elders deserve free speech. If you don't believe in communism, why do you believe in free speech? Unearned speech? The ignorant masses should be silenced like the sheep they are. If I had my way, I would shut down Twitter and have Jack Dorsey flogged in the street. And deep down, that would bring a little joy to you, wouldn't it? Twitter is the scum of the earth for a reason. Without the ignorant masses, Vic would still have a job. Me Too wouldn't even have any power. In fact, you cannot even be a Christian and a free speech absolutist. You cannot serve two masters, Nick. Unless you're fine with throwing out the 2nd and 8th commandments of God, do not take the Lord's name in vain, and do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Those are free speech, right? Well, I mean, the first one, I guess. The second one, no. No. Lying about someone as a false witness is not free speech. but you haven't seen it, right? The irony. Judge Chupp is a freedom of speech absolutist just like you. I doubt Judge Chupp is just like me, by the way. Funny, isn't it? I guess in that case you want the Christian moderate like me that would have held all of them accountable. Instead, you got a worthless Republican fraud that believes in Republican Jesus, not the real Jesus. Kind of like the horrible Republican governor in Kentucky that is releasing the dredges of society on the masses. T. Greg Doucette is another Republican. That truly is ironic. Don't get me wrong, both sides are horrible, but what do you expect from a country founded by evil secret societies, secret knowledge equal a cult that is banned by God? If it were up to me, people like Joshua Moon would be warming up a prison cell with a horny and frustrated Drexel. Ooh, duct tape, yo anus. These degenerates don't deserve freedom. Rules are there for a reason. These people are destroying our society and our culture. America is so far gone that it doesn't even understand the basics of life like God created, male and female. Good is evil and evil is good. Everything is inverted. Communism is a representation of Satanism / Luciferianism on earth. Do what thy wilt and love should be the whole of the law. Lucifer rebelled against God's authority. He is the one pushing all of this. Josh Moon or Null is the same one that ran several pedophile forums, one of which people tried to get thrown off of 8chan. The freedom of speech absolutists were protecting them. Josh told everyone on a YouTube video that Cloudflare is protecting pedophile websites, but not Kiwi Farms. Wait a minute. How does he know that? Unless he knows of these pedophile sites. Check and mate. In the end, Josh will allow you to be doxxed and destroyed just like all the people. He sits back and watches get doxxed. Maybe you should have wondered what he was doing in the Philippines and the Ukraine. Go research all the buzzwords associated with both places. I guess you're okay with him diddling kids on the side. Or maybe not. Drexel is a degenerate that listens to other degenerates like TFM. I know all about TFM. He was in naval intelligence and worked for the Pentagon. Gee, sounds so trustworthy, doesn't he? I'm sure he doesn't glow in the dark or anything. His email has morgue and 33 in it, yet his buddy Phil of the Dollhouse is about to become a master mason. Nothing to see here. Gee, I wonder why all of these people are pushing the male equivalent of feminism, MGTOW. How can women even ever pair bond if men like Drexel are providing the outlet for them to all be whores? Most people don't see the death trap they are building. Go read and research the Mouse Utopia experiment. With automation and stuff like universal income, you'll be all rats, I think, in a cage, despite all my rage. But they won't kill you. You'll be well fed and have everything your heart desires. Unfortunately, most people don't realize they are building a soft kill death camp. It always ends the same. This guy is an effective writer. He does this, a brief aside. This is what we call a 5-word sentence. Look at how that punctuates his point in five words. It always ends the same. They have thousands of years of technology and education on you. This is only half of it. We're gonna get the rest of it. Here we go. We'll take a brief pause. Brief pause from our dramatic reading because we have a couple chats to go through. Random Blaze says Twitter has been quiet. Low T is saying he is opening a GoFundMe for his lawsuit. Oh, shocker. Shocker. LJ Montello has set its sights on the Hyatt for targeted harassment and getting away with it. Dom opened a new Twitter to bypass its ban. Every game played says null stream when? Literally anytime. I love talking to Joshua Moon. Always. I gotta reach out to him. Maybe we can. I'm trying to put together something for Christmas that you guys won't believe. Something special. But I don't know if I can do it or not. We'll see. But I'm trying to put together some good stuff this month. I really am. So let's... All right, back to the document. Nick, those of us who had the alternative education know how this all ends. Democracy was a failure from the beginning. It went the same way it's going now. Do you think anything new is under the sun? Anything is new under the sun? Read Solomon's words in the Bible. It is not new. It's not new, but people are ignorant, and even those with all the knowledge in the world like Solomon failed. He had all the knowledge and wealth in the world, and Samson had all the strength in the world, but both fell. Women played a part in both. Ironic. Back to democracy. Athens played out the same way. They were democratic, and they even set up a United Nations called the Delian League. They abused it and tried to be the world police. Eventually, their allies turned on them and took over Athens and tore down their walls. Funny how America's enemies are being built up right as we speak. And you all want to argue about degeneracy with degenerates. It all happened before. Rome had men cutting off their dicks and dressing as women too. In fact, they had birth control in Roman times. It was made from a flower that is now extinct. I can tell that you're kin, Nick. You have all the genetic markers. We have trade-offs for our intelligence, such as narcolepsy, which I suffer from as well. I also have back problems as distant family, such as Princess Eugenie has. Most of the elites are a relation too. I'm directly related to 2 vice presidents and many kings. The sociopathic tendencies are normal, Nick. We are able to rule with reason, not feelings. I don't have all those feelings either, and sometimes I overcompensate by being overly nice. I'm sure you understand that as well. My grandpa was Rh negative, and I have many relatives that are too. Our immune system is generally superior. However, we sometimes get abnormalities such as cold or heat allergies, strange autoimmune disorders, etc. Rh helped our relatives survive the plagues. Some of us are even immune to AIDS. Inbreeding has an intensification effect on both good and bad traits. They believe they can edit out the bad stuff and keep the good stuff with genetic modification. God created us to be leaders, Nick, not the ignorant masses. They are little more than sheep. They will never be anything more than the scum they are. They are unable to suppress their degenerate nature. They were training me to be a social engineer, Nick. I was taking psychology, sociology, biochemistry, etc. I rebelled against them and ended up being an outcast. I was studying aphasia, brain lesions, and biochemical engineering. You know, in the literature aspect of my studies, I had to read the book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. They've been using biochemical behavior modification for a long time now, Nick. Bath salts were no accident. They can even create specific delusions and/or ideas and feelings. I studied all the old stuff and some new. Milgram conformity experiments, the Harvard prison experiments, and all the classics. There was even a school teacher that experimented on her students using eye color to either discriminate or privilege one group over the other. The problem I found, Nick, is the masses are so ignorant and foolish that they won't listen to people like you and I. All these people who claim to be red-pilled are just as ignorant as they ever were. They rail against the system, but accept degeneracy such as homosexuality that is thrust upon them by the elites. They won't accept God, at least not the majority of them. People like me know for a fact God is real. I've seen some stuff, Nick. I know the dark side is there, and that they have to follow the rules God sets in place. There are so many layers to the deception. The Bible described a beast with many heads and crowns. Well, that what it is. Like the Hydra, if you were to cut off a single head, it would grow into two more. Meanwhile, the other heads would turn and attack you. Compartmentalization. Each group has its goals, and they tell them each a slightly different, beautiful lie. Even if these individual people come forward, it doesn't matter. They each have a different ideology. All of those opposing truths confuse people, and nobody learns the truth. They use religion, science, history, philosophy, and human nature to control these heads or cells. It's funny, really. If those idiots in Virginia cared as much about their guns as they did their God, freedom, women, and children, they would storm into the capital of the glow-in-the-darks that starts with a C. Ta-ta for now. I'm well aware that you've found plenty of mistakes in my writing to frustrate you. It's not too bad, actually, buddy. Does the fact that I understand and predict this about you upset you more? No. Communication was one of the trade-offs I had to suffer to excel in other areas. In fact, I am almost incapable of normal human interaction. By design, I suppose. If I were eloquent and charismatic like Vic, people would wake up and turn on the system. That was a great email. If I could get one of these like a week, oh man. Whew. Dropping bombs. That was last night's whiskey. Oh. Whew. Okay. So that was that. That was very interesting. Again, I don't want anybody to have the wrong impression about the guy. I found him charming. Really interesting thoughts. I don't agree with a lot of them. But that's okay. That's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. We can have a fun time. And, buddy, if you think that you're not able to interact with people, you communicate just fine. Better than most people on Twitter. So I think you're selling yourself short. You know, if you're ever in the area, send me another email, a little shorter, and we can meet up for a drink or a pizza or something. We can talk about it. I think he misunderstands why I'm annoyed about writing errors and stuff like that. It's in legal documents that's where the problem is. Like, it's when it's in a legal document, that's the grading thing. Like, this is getting filed into a court, into the public record. You're representing a client. You know, a judge is going to read this, your opponent's going to read this, everybody's going to read this and judge you. Do a good job. That's it. Kenta ZX, that was an email I got. I don't know what else to say. Rekieta SKR says, whoever wrote that email, it's do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. It's thelema, not Satanism. Distant reeing. Also, Nick, my name is from Norse. It's one word. Ratatasker. See, he knew I would mess that up too. Ratatasker. Ratatosker. Ratatosker. I don't know how to say it. So that's good. Thank you for sharing and correcting. That's nice. The Dark Knight says, to the degenerate who wrote this letter, MGTOW have saved men from suicide and there are testimonials that prove so. You idiotic moron, get a carrot and stick it in your body where the sun doesn't shine. MGTOW saves lives. So there you go. That's that. That's some counter narrative to that very interesting narrative. You guys didn't, someone said nothing was interesting. You didn't find that? Ratatosker. That's where we're going. It's a techno Viking. It's a techno barbarian. I hope you guys found that thing interesting. I found it fascinating. Like, imagine when you encounter someone with an ethos that is so viciously different from yours. Doesn't it make you want to know, like, what their life was like and how they got there? Like, he had alternative education. What the hell was that? Like, what was his alternative education? That's what I want to know. Like, I want to know about that. I want to know about how this guy's communication has shaped his interactions with people and led him to these conclusions. I want to know what drew him to the books he was reading. I love that stuff. Genuinely find it very interesting. How humans get to be the humans they are is so fascinating to me. I look forward to watching him wear your skin as a suit. We'll miss your content, though. Whew. All right, let's do this document. Defendant's cross notice of appeal. They said this is a very straightforward document. Defendants Monica Rial and Ronald Toye filed this cross notice of appeal and for same would show. The matter from which this cross appeal is sought was pending in the 141st Judicial District, Tarrant County, Texas. Appeal is taken from the order dated November 25th, 2019, in which the trial court awarded attorneys' fees and sanctions to defendants in the amount of $100,000 without considering defendants' evidence of time and labor supporting a higher award. A copy of the final judgment is attached here to as Exhibit A. He didn't listen to us! Didn't listen to our evidence! This is a funny thing, right? Not only did Chupp ask specifically for them to submit affidavits and memoranda of law supporting what their fee award was, they had a 5-hour hearing, 5-hour evidentiary hearing on this issue. And these guys are going to say the judge didn't consider the evidence? I mean, I guess. But he has a lot of leeway to determine what are reasonable attorney fees. The purpose of the TCPA, Jay Sean, as I'm sure you know, you lying sack of trash, is to reduce the cost of litigation. The goal was to reduce the cost of litigation, but you went ahead and rubbed so many out while billing your clients for it that you jacked up the price of litigation as far as you could. You are trying to charge what the president's lawyers charged on a TCPA that was much more complicated than this one. And you're calling it reasonable? Of course it's not reasonable what you did, you moron. Of course not. And you know that. In fact, I think you got an unreasonable amount at $100,000. I'm just curious, as I'm sure you are right now, curious how Chupp came to $100,000. Did he do it $50,000 for Monica and $50,000 for Ron? Did he do it as $100,000 because you're an expert and $50,000 to the non-experts? What was it? What caused it? How did he come to that amount? Maybe he actually looked at what you did submit and went through and said, this is unreasonable, this is unreasonable, this is unreasonable. And he came to a nice even number of $100,000. Maybe that's what happened. But you won't know because Chupp won't write it down for you. All right. What is happening here? I got like a hair sticking out of my shirt, touching my neck. Oh. Anyway. Defendant's desire to cross-appeal the order identified in paragraph 2 above. Cross-appeal is timely as it is filed within 20 days of the order in accordance with Texas Rule of Appellate Procedure 26.1. Upon perfection, this appeal will be taken to the 2nd District Court of Appeals located in Fort Worth, Texas. This cross-appeal is filed by the defendants. Here we go. November 25th. Let's do the counting. This was filed... Oh, wait, no. Let's count out when 20 days would be. November 25th. So, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 5. 31, 32, 33, 34, 30. Oh, wait, no, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, wait, we just have 5. So then it would be up to 15. That would be 15 days plus the 5 we already had. That's 30. December 15th, which would probably give them until December 16th to file. The only reason I count that out, I know they filed timely. That's not the point. It means the window for Funimation and Jamie Marchi is closed. Okay, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going with this. Jamie Marchi and Funimation had until, at the latest, December 16th to file their appeal, and they didn't do it. Now, that's not a criticism, okay? Let's be very clear. I'm not saying, haha, lol, they didn't do it, idiots. No. Nothing like that. You choose to not appeal, right? Now, we could take a look at the award here. It's attached. Oh, this is filed by Rusty J. O'Kane. Rusty O'Kane, who was... I believe Rusty O'Kane may have been in the courtroom. No. I think it was Jeff Hellberg was in the courtroom. I don't know who Rusty O'Kane is. Anyway, so he's someone from Wick Phillips. Rusty O'Kane filed this notice of appeal. Jay Sean didn't. But Jay Sean's going to be involved in the appeal, right? They just have another lawyer representing it. They may have to examine, or they may have to... Well, no. No, there won't be an evidentiary hearing. This is appeals court. Who knows why Rusty's handling it? Maybe he's their appeals specialist to come bail out their TCPA specialist who failed to get an award for the attorney's fees that he charged, which were obviously ridiculous. But here's the judgment. So we've got all this stuff. And, of course, fees to Funimation, $50,000. and then $75.04 for costs. So that's what that is. Of course, we've got this really interesting question on the event that plaintiff files a notice of appeal. Vic has not filed a notice of appeal following this order. Right? They filed the notice of appeal prior to this order. They've amended their appeal following the order, but they have not filed a notice of appeal after this order went into effect. So it'll be really interesting to see how the appeals court supports something that they couldn't have known. They already filed it. They haven't filed a new one. And all of this stuff is contingent upon the event that plaintiff files the notice of appeal, according to the court order. So what they're going to have to do is argue that for their contingent fees, remember, they're all getting their contingent fees. Law Twitter has said so, because it's just a foregone conclusion. There's no argument at all, right? We're not lawyers here. When one side says something, it happens, and the other side doesn't get any say. Judges are always right because we're lawyers. But here's the thing. This order was filed after Vic had already filed his notice of appeal. Can a judge retroactively punish someone for something they've done? He didn't get to consider whether or not he would file a notice of appeal. It was already filed. I don't think that's enforceable. I think the appeals court might agree with that. And I think that's going to be really, really funny. But we'll see. Because remember, Vic is definitely having to pay all of these contingency fees. Definitely happened. But anyway, so where do we go? So Funimation gets 57,500 total. Real and Toei get their 115,500, and then Marky comes out at just over 50 grand total. What is that? Is that like $50,000 and $50,001 or something? 48,137.50 plus 1,873.96. Yeah, $50,011.46 costs and fees in there. Okay. So, Marky is not appealing this, which is fine. You know, she got what she asked for. And now on the sanctions, of course, she only got the 5,000. They had asked for more, but they got 5,000. So she's awarded that 55, whatever. The real interesting one to me is that Funimation didn't appeal. That's the most interesting. I've thought that Funimation settling has made the most sense for a very long time. I mean, I thought Marky might settle because she's poor. I thought Funimation might settle because businesses are sometimes reasonable and settle. Now, just because they aren't appealing that award doesn't mean that they're settling. But I really wonder. I've heard rumblings this whole case about Funimation trying to settle this out or at least being open to the discussion. I've never heard rumblings about Marky or Real or Toye. In fact, they always said the opposite. But like I said, I talked to a lot of people, and I've heard some chatter about settlement being something that was possible. I really, really wonder what Funimation is doing here. I mean, like I said earlier, they're gonna have to go. Funimation has to go to the Court of Appeals. They have to do it. They're gonna go, and they're going to have to fight against, they'll have to brief against the appeal that Vic's doing. But they won't be able to ask for more fees. The court, I guess, the appeals court could decide they should get more fees, but they're not actually appealing anything, any of the decisions in their favor. So there's a strong argument that they're fine with this award and it shouldn't be prejudicially applied against Vic just because he appealed. They shouldn't be granted some extra amount. So I'm really curious about this. We'll have to see what happens here. But I do not think, I do not think that the Court of Appeals will be able to apply any of these contingencies. And I think if they tried, that might actually make this case ripe for Supreme Court review when it otherwise wouldn't be. I mean, everything is potentially ripe for Supreme Court review. This would be a really interesting issue. This would be a judge issuing a retroactive penalty for something that the plaintiff had already done, but is within his rights to do. Like and it's also a weird thing to try and deter an appeal. Like, that's your right to file an appeal. A district court judge shouldn't be deterring your right to appeal his decision. That's weird, right? Like, look, my decision is definitely right, and you don't get to ask the appeals court to make it wrong. And if you do ask the appeals court to make it wrong, then I'm going to fine you $50,000 for asking. Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's not how this should work. It's not how this should go. But that's what Chupp did here. That's a weird play. I don't think that we'll have the Court of Appeals. We can do it, but I guess I should maybe try and find a case where this has happened. We'll have to check. But even if it has happened, I'd be surprised if it's happened in this way, where the notice of appeal was already filed, and then the judge says, if he files a notice of appeal, they do this. In the event plaintiff files notice of appeal. Judge knew he filed a notice of appeal. It's in the record, already there. So, again, I would argue that there is no notice of appeal filed from November 25th, when this order was issued. No notice of appeal has been filed since then. Therefore, that order can't be binding on what had already occurred. So, very, very strange. But that being said, well, it may be dangerous to assume what Chupp knows, but he has a duty to know what's in the record. Okay. The Texan 83 says, reminds me of a flatmate I had a few years back. Told me I would regret kicking him out once he was famous for being the link between humanity and the alien masters. 10 years later, and I don't even remember his name. Was it David Koresh? Mithran Emrys says, didn't consider the evidence. I think he did listen to the evidence of Jamie's lawyer's much more reasonable amount of approximately $50K, disregarding Lemon Boy's stuff and nonsense. Yep. Sure seems like he did. But, you know, it wouldn't... to be fair to Lemoyne knows that that wouldn't be the first time that Chupp ignored the evidence that was right in front of him. And I find it just a little bit pristine to see the anti-Vic people on Twitter running this I don't know what to call it. This weird delusion of like defending Chupp's performance, but then really being frustrated with how he dealt with fees. Right? Like, Chupp's ruling over here was perfect. It was fine. It was exactly as it should be. But this one is he just didn't pay attention. Oh, I bet he didn't. I bet he didn't even read it. I bet he didn't even care. I told you he wasn't going to care. And you made a big flipping deal out of all this stuff, and you gave him this big hearing that he didn't want to have. Chupp said, submit me your stuff. Just submit it. And if all you had to do was be not stupid and submit a reasonable attorney fee request, and Chupp would have just granted it. But no, you had to depose Slaytosh, and you had to try and subpoena Ty. You weirdo. You had to do all this other stuff that didn't have anything to do with the fees, and you just bored the guy. He got bored with you because you're boring. He got so tired of hearing you talk about everything that you were supposed to get, and he just didn't want to do it. Now you're mad at him, because hoes always mad. Well, have fun. Have fun with it. This is the judge you love. He did it right. He got it 100% right the other time too, right? Couldn't possibly have ignored evidence. None of that happened. Oh, it's delightful. It's truly, truly wondrous. To me, I think it's great. A2P says, I resent the recent trend of blaming homosexuality as the cause of society's ills. There are various factors, i.e. income inequality, that contribute to dysfunction, and blaming to gays for everything wrong solves nothing. Blaming any one thing for everything wrong solves nothing. Unless that one thing is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But, okay, let's see what we've got here. I'm going to get the, let's get that Trump letter pulled up. Oh, interestingly, maybe not to you, but to me, someone on Twitter accused me of not reading Doucette's complaint. Let's do a quick update on that, very quick. They accused me of not reading this thing that I read online live. But here's the thing. They didn't understand the problem. The problem with this document is simple. One. Okay. So there's parties, jurisdiction, and venue. Court has subject matter jurisdiction. Personal jurisdiction over defendants because in using Dropbox, they consented to personal jurisdiction and venue in the state and federal courts and stuff. This is extremely weak. Right? That by using an internet service that's available wherever you go, that you are consenting to jurisdiction for all matters in the state and federal courts in San Francisco, California. This is a weak argument. And the sending of the takedown notice at issue constitutes sufficient minimum contacts under California Civil Practice Code or Code of Civil Procedure 410.10 U.S. Constitution, where the defendants purposefully directed their acts toward California. No, they didn't, though. I mean, you can say they did by filling out an online form that they directed their acts toward California. Again, this is a weak argument because you don't have to go to California to enforce copyright law or to invoke the DMCA. And just because a third party that the defendant... Wait a minute. Do the defendants... Have they established that the defendants even have a Dropbox account? All they know is that the defendants submitted a DMCA request. They haven't proved here or shown that the defendants have a Dropbox account at all. So that's very weird. But anyway, I wanted to go back to this for just a second. Here's their line again. Defendant is named as herein only to achieve complete relief. Plaintiffs seek no damages against Dropbox. Well, if they don't have damages against Dropbox, then Dropbox should go ahead and file for dismissal. Like Dropbox has no, they're forcing Dropbox to incur costs to dismiss them from a lawsuit that admittedly doesn't involve them. So that's weird. They're just doing this for a forum shop, and it's obvious. But here's the problem, right? They haven't shown that the Sons of Confederate Veterans use a Dropbox. They could have alleged that in here, but they didn't. And then the other problem is that Dropbox restored Doucette's account just yesterday, I think it was. Okay. Dropbox restored his account because Dropbox complied with the DMCA, which should put them under the safe harbor provisions of the DMCA. They did exactly what the statute required them to do. They immediately take down the allegedly infringing material. They offer the other side a reasonable time, in this case 14 days, to the Sons of Confederate Veterans to file suit against Greg Doucette. If they do not file a copyright suit and produce it to Dropbox, Dropbox can then restore the functionality and restore the item, which allegedly they have done as the 14 days expired and SCV did not sue. So now, why is Dropbox in the lawsuit? Let's see if we can... we can pull this up. 17 USC 512. Okay. Let's see if we've got a safe harbor provision in here. Okay, here we go. Let's just go ahead and cite this because they know this. This is the worst part. Subject to paragraph 2, a service provider shall not be liable to any person for any claim based on the service provider's good faith disabling of access to or removal of material or activity claimed to be infringing or based on facts or circumstances from which infringing activity is apparent, regardless of whether the material or activity is ultimately determined to be infringing. Okay? This is the safe harbor provision. Exception, paragraph 1 shall not apply with respect to material residing at the direction of a subscriber of the service provider on a system or network controlled or operated by or for the service provider that is removed or to which access is disabled by the service provider pursuant to a notice provider under subsection C1C, unless the service provider takes steps to promptly notify the subscriber that has removed or disabled access to the material. Upon receipt of a counter notification described in paragraph 3, promptly provides the person who provided the notification under subsection C1C with a copy of the counter notification and informs that person that it will replace the removed material or cease disabling access to it in 10 business days and replaces the removed material and ceases disabling access to it not less than 10 nor more than 14 business days following receipt of the counter notice unless its designated agent first receives notice from the person who submitted the notification under subsection C1C that such person has filed an action seeking a court to order to restrain the subscriber from engaging in the infringing activity. So there it is. If you file a DMCA notice against YouTube disables the material, and then you file I file my counter notification to YouTube and say, no, this is mine, this is my counter notification. They provide that counter notification to you, and then they say, you've got 10 business days to show us a lawsuit. You got 10 business days to show us a lawsuit. If you don't have a lawsuit, we've got to restore the material. And if they do that, a service provider shall not be liable to any person for any claim based on their good faith disabling of access to or removal of material or activity claimed to be infringing or based on facts or circumstances from which the activity is apparent. Dropbox has mooted themselves out of this lawsuit by complying with the statute. Period. Randazza, T. Greg, Jay Woolman, they had to know this because I assume they're not disabled. Well, Greg, maybe. But Woolman and Randazza aren't stupid men. They know that they can't have Dropbox in there. It's literally a frivolous claim against Dropbox. And Dropbox complied. T. Greg admitted they complied on Twitter. So there you go. Let's see. Anyway, yeah, it's this is, I don't know what else to say on it. Yeah, but by the way, guy on Twitter, whatever your weird name was, yeah, I read it. There are severe problems with trying to include Dropbox in this lawsuit, and it's a naked attempt at forum shopping, and it shouldn't actually apply in any way here. Dropbox should be removed from the suit, and the suit should be relocated right back to North Carolina, and they can make their arguments there. Go for it. Fight over it all day. What do you mean, how does he get around Dropbox TOS? I don't know what you mean. That being said, let me get this. Let's find this Trump letter, and then we'll wrap up the show pretty soon. Trump letter, Pelosi. Read the full Trump letter Trump sent to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I'm not going to do the Trump voice on it. It just makes me happy. Can I download this? I want to download the Oh, here we go. This'll be just fine. Maybe I can pull this. Oh, baby. There we go. A little bit more legible. This isn't written on that little White House stationery, like the little sheets like this. Oh, Dropbox had a mandatory arbitration clause in TOS regarding all disputes. Yeah, I guess that's another problem. But they don't have a dispute with Dropbox. All right. The White House, Washington, dated today, December 17th, 2019. The Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Washington, D.C., 20515. Dear Madam Speaker, I write to express my strongest and most powerful protest against the partisan impeachment crusade being pursued by the Democrats in the House of Representatives. This impeachment represents an unprecedented and unconstitutional abuse of power by Democrat lawmakers, unequaled in nearly 2.5 centuries of American legislative history. The articles of impeachment introduced by the House Judiciary Committee are not recognizable under any standard of constitutional theory, interpretation, or jurisprudence. They include no crimes, no misdemeanors, and no offenses whatsoever. You have cheapened the importance of the very ugly word impeachment. Now I know Trump wrote this. Not until that last line was I sure. By proceeding with your invalid impeachment, you are violating your oaths of office, you are breaking your allegiance to the Constitution, and you are declaring open war on American democracy. Ooh. You dare to invoke the Founding Fathers in pursuit of this election nullification scheme, yet your spiteful actions display unfettered contempt for America's founding, and your egregious conduct threatens to destroy that which our founders pledged their very lives to build. Even worse than offending the Founding Fathers, you are offending Americans of faith by continually saying, I pray for the president, when you know this statement is not true, unless it is meant in a negative sense. It is a terrible thing you are doing, but you will have to live with it, not I! Your first claim, abuse of power, is completely disingenuous, meritless, and baseless invention of your imagination. You know that I had a totally innocent conversation with the president of Ukraine. Oh, that sounds funny. I then had a second conversation that has been misquoted, mischaracterized, and fraudulently misrepresented. Fortunately, there was a transcript of the conversation taken, and you know from the transcript, which was immediately made available, that the paragraph in question was perfect. I said to President Zelensky, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I said, do us a favor, not me, and our country, not a campaign. I then mentioned the Attorney General of the United States. Every time I talk with a foreign leader, I put America's interests first, just as I did with President Zelensky. You are turning a policy disagreement between two branches of government into an impeachable offense. It is no more legitimate than the executive branch charging members of Congress with crimes for the lawful exercise of legislative power. One moment. You know full well that Vice President Biden used his office and $1 billion of U.S. aid money to coerce Ukraine into firing the prosecutor who was digging into the company paying his son millions of dollars. You know this because Biden bragged about it on video. Biden openly stated, I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I looked at them and said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch, he got fired. Even Joe Biden admitted just days ago in an interview with NPR that it looked bad. Now you are trying to impeach me by falsely accusing me of doing what Joe Biden has admitted he actually did. President Zelensky has repeatedly declared that I did nothing wrong. Trump didn't do nothing. And that there was no pressure. He further emphasized that it was a good phone call, that I don't feel pressure, and explicitly stressed that nobody pushed me. The Ukrainian foreign minister stated very clearly, I have never seen a direct link between investigations and security assistance. He also said there was no pressure. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, a supporter of Ukraine who met privately with President Zelensky, has said, at no time during this meeting was there any mention by Zelensky or any Ukrainian that they were feeling pressure to do anything in return for the military aid. Many meetings have been held between representatives of Ukraine and our country. Never once did Ukraine complain about pressure being applied. Not once! Ambassador Sondland testified that I told him no quid pro quo. I want nothing. I want nothing. I want President Zelensky to do the right thing, do what he ran on. The second claim, so-called obstruction of Congress, is preposterous and dangerous. All right, let's talk about this first claim. Talk about this first claim. They include no crimes, no misdemeanors, and no offenses whatsoever. Doesn't matter. Let's get that out in the open. It doesn't matter. This is a weird narrative that's been going around, partly because of Alan Dershowitz talking about how it says high crimes and misdemeanors. It literally doesn't matter. Impeachment is a purely political process. Purely. There is no appeal of impeachment. There is no overturning an impeachment. There is no Supreme Court intervention against an impeachment. It's if articles of impeachment are drafted in the House, it goes to the Senate for a vote for 2/3 majority. That's it. Or 60 or whatever it is. That's it. That's how impeachment goes. So it doesn't matter if they said he drank from the White House water fountain and we didn't like it, or he peed in the White House garden, or he just was elected. They can do it because this is a purely political process. And no one sits above the legislature's authority to impeach. It's a plenary authority. It is written in the Constitution. Exactly how it goes is written in the Constitution. And there isn't going to be a way to step in to that process. There just isn't. We may not like that, but that's what we have. Because if it's something else, who enforces it? There isn't an enforcement. The enforcement is simple. who has guns. It's the scary part of impeachment. Congress doesn't have guns. And if a president, in theory, were to go up against Congress, who he believes wrongfully impeached him, it would be the popularity contest that could spiral the country into a civil war immediately. Now, here we don't have a Democrat majority Senate. We have a Republican majority Senate. And we have enough of a Republican majority Senate that it would be really, really difficult for them to flip enough Republicans to vote for impeachment. They'd have to find probably more than what they've got. That being said, the only good part about that is that it probably won't lead to a civil war because the legislature and the presidency are literally going to come to drawing guns. Now, the president has more guns than the legislature, but it's always a tough call to presume what an army person will do when ordered by their commander-in-chief to draw guns, especially if they just watched a news story where the Congress voted out their commander-in-chief. Who knows? We don't have any experience in this field. We don't have it. So, that being said, we don't really know what's going on there. So, whether or not his call with President Zelensky, and I mean, this is written, a lot of people who are being pressured will say there's no pressure. I'm not saying that he was. I really don't care. It's not important. That's ultimately the one thing that everybody needs to know. It doesn't matter what Trump said to President Zelensky. Doesn't matter if he said, you have a nice putt-putt course in the Ukraine, I was there. It doesn't matter if he said, listen, you son of a bitch, I want you to investigate Joe Biden, and the next time he's there, I want you to hang him. It doesn't matter for the impeachment what he said from the standpoint of, is it impeachable? If the president breathes, it's impeachable. That's it. That's the answer. Now, it's the political capital that they're expending to do the impeachment that matters. That's what all of this is about. This is the key. Does the Congress feel that they have enough political capital to survive after impeaching a president that roughly half the country voted for? Open question. That's the only question that matters on impeachment is, does Congress think that they will keep their power, the people who vote to impeach? So that's that. That's this first question. Abuse of power. It may be completely disingenuous, meritless, and baseless invention of your imagination. It may be. Doesn't matter. They can still impeach him for it. They can still do it. As long as they don't lie under oath. And the question of whether or not they're lying under oath in an impeachment proceeding is tough. The question for Trump, whether he would be lying under oath in an impeachment proceeding, is much easier than the congressman bringing it. So, that being said, abuse of power doesn't matter what they put down on paper. It's a sales pitch to the people voting. That's all it is. And it's a sales pitch to you for when you vote next time. So the people voting on impeachment, it's a sales pitch to the senators. It's a sales pitch to the public who will be voting in the next midterm, or, in the next election cycle. All right, that said, this is a good move by Trump, tying in Biden, drag Biden as much as possible, because they're ostensibly doing this because he's dragging Biden. So, if I were him, I'd be dragging Biden through every single mud pit I could find. The second claim, so-called obstruction of Congress, is preposterous and dangerous. House Democrats are trying to impeach the duly elected president of the United States for asserting constitutionally based privileges that have been asserted on a bipartisan basis by administrations on both political parties throughout our nation's history. This is true. And it is preposterous and dangerous to say that executive privilege in and of itself is automatically obstruction of Congress, and is automatically impeachable. But as I said before, everything is impeachable. Everything he does is impeachable. But this is where things get confused, because the Supreme Court actually does get to intervene on this stuff, right? The Supreme Court does get to say whether or not the president has to comply with a House subpoena. And we've got this weird thing where there is no impeachment investigation laid out in the Constitution. So that impeachment investigation is a fiction created by the House of Representatives, in which they determine that the separation of powers no longer exists and that Congress has the authority to ask for from the president what would otherwise be privileged documents. This is very different from Nixon, okay? Because they want to draw a parallel to US v. Nixon, in which President Nixon was ordered to turn over some stuff as a part of an existing criminal case, and he asserted executive privilege over those documents and then lost. He lost, and the Supreme Court said, nope, executive privilege does not cover the documents or the tape recordings or whatever in this instance. It does not allow the president. Does that mean that a president always has to comply with every single subpoena? No. It meant that President Richard Nixon had to comply with that subpoena. And that if another situation were analogous enough to Nixon's situation, we could presume how the court would rule based on stare decisis. This is very, very different. We don't have an existing criminal investigation, I don't believe, that is involving a third party in which the court is attempting to enforce a subpoena for documents related to something that presumably does not involve the President of the United States. If you remember back to what was happening with Nixon, they had charged someone else with a crime, but the tapes implicated Nixon's complicity in the crime and his aiding and abetting of it, and the cover up and all of that. So they were subpoenaing documents that should have led to the conviction of the criminal in their mind, but they also implicated the president. And allegedly, they didn't know that would happen, although I believe they probably had a really good idea what was on those tapes before asking for them. But these are an unrelated matter. Whereas in our current status, we have some civil cases. We have some civil cases that kind of look like naked fictions for the purpose of creating an effort to subpoena the president's documents and then try and press him. But if the president asserts executive privilege for national security interests over one of those Ukraine calls, you don't get to automatically override that just because you're Congress and you want to, and you say you want to impeach the president. Now, you might get to do it after filing articles of impeachment, or after again, in Nixon's case is very different because they appointed a special prosecutor who was involved in this as well. They haven't done that here. They haven't appointed another special prosecutor. The last special prosecutor didn't do any of this stuff, but they haven't appointed a special prosecutor now to go after someone in the executive branch, which would then potentially implicate Trump, as it did in Nixon. These are very different situations. On the surface, they kind of look similar. Well, the House has subpoenaed Trump's documents here, and they should get them because they're going to impeach him. Well, in Nixon's case, it wasn't the House subpoenaing them. It was a criminal court. And they weren't openly doing it to impeach Nixon. They were doing it for an ongoing criminal matter. So different things here. Okay, sorry for the digression. This is a really interesting sort of discussion because there's so little guidance on it, right? The impeachment process is laid out in bare bones in the Constitution, and everything else is made up. And we have to build that. But we only had 2 impeachments of presidents, I believe, in our history, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton. And that's it. I feel like there was another one, though, but maybe not. Maybe, Nixon was never actually impeached. He resigned prior to the impeachment being filed. I think they had motive to try and impeach President Bush, G.W. Bush, and they didn't do that. But can I explain how Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution doesn't apply? Let me get the language pulled up. It does apply. That's what we're talking about here. Wolvenar. Article 2, Section 4 reads, the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. It does apply. Yeah, we've had non-presidential impeachments. Actually, there's a second U.S. v. Nixon case that isn't related to Richard Nixon, but a judge named Nixon, which was an impeachment thing because the judge was in jail, but still a judge. He was still an appointed judge for life because you're appointed for life, and he had to be impeached and be removed. And they did it in like a committing hearing. They didn't convene the full Senate for his impeachment, and so he argued that it wasn't valid, and the court said, "Yeah, it is. Get out, lol." So, Wolvenar, I apologize. I'm not understanding why you think that Article 2, Section 4 doesn't apply. Article 2, Section 4 definitely does apply. Okay. Next, where were we? Under that standard, every American president would have been impeached many times over. As liberal law professor Jonathan Turley warned when addressing congressional Democrats, I can't emphasize this enough. If you impeach a president, if you make a high crime and misdemeanor out of going to the courts, it is an abuse of power. It's your abuse of power. You're doing precisely what you're criticizing the president for doing. And they can. It's all about political capital. It's all about political capital. Everyone, you included, knows what is really happening. Your chosen candidate lost the election in 2016 in an electoral college landslide. This is good. If I were Trump, heaven forbid, I would rub salt in Hillary's wounds and eyeballs too. And you and your party have never recovered from this defeat. You have developed a full-fledged case of what many in the media call Trump derangement syndrome, and sadly, you'll never get over it. You are unwilling and unable to accept the verdict issued at the ballot box during the great election of 2016. So you've spent 3 straight years attempting to overturn the will of the American people and nullify their votes. You view democracy as your enemy. So yeah, he's taking some pot shots here. Oh. Okay, Wolvenar. So to answer your question, other high crimes and misdemeanors, there aren't limits because there just isn't a limit. Like, other high crimes and misdemeanors isn't defined anywhere in U.S. law. Like, a misdemeanor is something that states define, a misdemeanor versus a felony, but a capitalized misdemeanors isn't a misdemeanor. Does that make sense? It's just some small indiscretion. Let's look up the word misdemeanor. Misdemeanor means a minor wrongdoing. So there's nothing to indicate that misdemeanors in Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution has anything to do with a criminal misdemeanor act. It's just literally a minor wrongdoing. And there is no guidance on impeachment, but it's the processes of impeachment, which I believe are in See, Article 1. The section. I'll find it real quick. Okay. Section, whoops. 2. Dang it. The House of Representatives, so the last line of Article 1, Section 2, the House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. And then Section 3 says, the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on an oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. That's it. They have the sole power. House has the sole power of impeachment. The Senate has the sole power to try all impeachments. Nobody gets to overturn that. So the limits are literally what the House and Senate want to do. That's why the limits in Article 4, which aren't limits, misdemeanor, like I said, it means minor wrongdoing. So there aren't really limits there, but that's why those aren't limiting factors for impeachment. Kind of a guidance of how important it is, like what the gravity of impeachment actually is. So, okay, anyway. Speaker Pelosi, you admitted just last week at a public forum that your party's impeachment effort has been going on for 2.5 years, long before you ever heard about a phone call with Ukraine. 19 minutes after I took the oath of office, the Washington Post published a story headlined, "The campaign to impeach President Trump has begun." Less than 3 months after my inauguration, Representative Maxine Waters said, "I'm going to fight every day until he's impeached." House Democrats introduced the first impeachment resolution against me within months of my inauguration for what will be regarded as one of our country's best decisions, the firing of James Comey, see the Inspector General reports, who the world now knows is one of the dirtiest cops our nation has ever seen. A ranting and raving Congresswoman, Rekieta declared just hours after she was sworn into office, "We're going to go in there and we're going to impeach that mother effer." Representative Al Green said in May, "I'm concerned that if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected." Again, you and your allies said and did all of these things long before you ever heard of President Zelensky or anything related to Ukraine. As you know very well, this impeachment drive has nothing to do with Ukraine or the totally appropriate conversation I had with its new president. It only has to do with your attempt to undo the election of 2016 and steal the election of 2020. I love that Trump uses exclamation points unironically. Congressman Adam Schiff cheated and lied all the way up to the present day, even going so far as to fraudulently make up out of thin air my conversation with President Zelensky of Ukraine and read this fantasy language to Congress as though it were said by me. His shameless lies and deceptions dating all the way back to the Russia hoax is one of the main reasons we are here today. You and your party are desperate to distract from America's extraordinary economy, incredible jobs boom, record stock market, soaring confidence, and flourishing citizens. Imagine getting to write your own press release and knowing that your press release / diss track will be run by every news source in America. Your party simply cannot compete with our record. 7 million new jobs, the lowest ever unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans, a rebuilt military, a completely reformed VA with choice and accountability for our great veterans, more than 170 new federal judges and 2 Supreme Court justices, historic tax and regulation cuts, the elimination of the individual mandate, the first decline in prescription drug prices in half a century, the first new branch of the United States military since 1947, the Space Force, Space Marines, here we come, baby. Strong protection of the Second Amendment. No, Trump. I'm not going to give that one to you. Get your Supreme Court in order. Criminal justice reform, a defeated ISIS caliphate, and the killing of the world's #1 terrorist leader, al-Baghdadi. the replacement of the disastrous NAFTA trade deal with the wonderful USMCA, a breakthrough Phase 1 trade deal with China, massive new trade deals with Japan and South Korea, withdrawal from terrible Iran nuclear deal, cancellation of the unfair and costly Paris Climate Accord, becoming the world's top energy producer, recognition of Israel's capital, opening of the American embassy in Jerusalem, and recognizing Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, shut it down, a colossal reduction in illegal border crossings, the ending of catch and release, and the building of the southern border wall. And that is just the beginning. Yet there is so much more. You cannot defend your extreme policies, open borders, mass migration, high crime, crippling taxes, socialized healthcare, destruction of American energy, late-term taxpayer-funded abortion, elimination of the Second Amendment, radical far-left theories of law and justice, and constant partisan obstruction of both common sense and common good. There's nothing I would rather do than stop referring to your party as the do-nothing Democrats. Unfortunately, I don't know that you will ever give me the chance to do so. Like, oh, you just get to spend page after page dumping on your opponents. That's funny. And they brought this by bringing this impeachment, by making this story. They've given Trump an excuse to advertise his presidency to the entire country. Look at what I've done that they're not telling you that I've done. Do you have jobs? Do you even have a phone? Don't you guys have phones? After 3 years of unfair and unwarranted investigations, $45 million spent, 18 angry Democrat prosecutors, the entire force of the FBI, headed by leadership now proven to be totally incompetent and corrupt, you have found nothing! Few people in high position could have endured or passed this test. You do not know, nor do you care, the great damage and hurt you have inflicted upon wonderful and loving members of my family. You conducted a fake investigation upon the democratically elected president of the United States, and you are doing it yet again. There are not many people who could have taken the punishment inflicted during this period of time and yet done so much for the success of America and its citizens. But instead of putting our country first, you have decided to disgrace our country still further. You completely failed with the Mueller report because there was nothing to find. So you decided to take the next hoax that came along, the phone call with Ukraine, even though it was a perfect call. Wonderful call. I've never had a better phone call, and you'll never hear of a better phone call in your lifetime. Bet on that. And by the way, when I speak to foreign countries, there are many people with permission listening to the call on both sides of the conversation. Yeah, he's got to have at least a transcriber, typically. You are the ones interfering in America's elections. You are the ones subverting America's democracy. You are the ones obstructing justice. You are the ones bringing pain and suffering to our republic for your own selfish, personal, political, and partisan gain. Getting them sick gains. Before the impeachment hoax, it was the Russian witch hunt against... the man can brand. The man can brand. Against all evidence and regardless of the truth, you and your deputies claim that my campaign colluded with the Russians, a grave, malicious, and slanderous lie, a falsehood like no other. You forced our nation through turmoil and torment over a wholly fabricated story, illegally purchased from a foreign spy by Hillary Clinton, the DNC, in order to assault our democracy. Yet, when the monstrous lie was debunked and this Democrat conspiracy dissolved into dust, you did not apologize, you did not recant, you did not ask to be forgiven, you showed no remorse, no capacity for self-reflection. Instead, you pursued your next libelous and vicious crusade. You engineered an attempt to frame and defame an innocent person. All of this is motivated by personal political calculation. Your speakership and your party are held hostage by your most deranged and radical representatives of the far left. Each one of your members lives in fear of a socialist primary challenger. This is what is driving impeachment. Look at Congressman Nadler's challenge. Look at yourself and others. Do not take our country down with your party. If you truly cared about freedom and liberty for our nation, then you would be devoting your vast investigative resources to exposing the full truth concerning the FBI's horrifying abuses of power before, during, and after the 2016 election, including the use of spies against my campaign, the submission of false evidence to a FISA court, and the concealment of exculpatory evidence in order to frame the innocent. Now, to be fair, the FBI is under the executive branch's purview, and review of the FBI's policies and procedures should be done by Trump and his office. But he can't. Politically, he can't, even though that's his job. Obviously, if the Trump White House were to announce that they were doing a thorough review and audit of FBI policies and procedures, it would be called obstruction of justice by his critics. He would be derided for it in the media. They would say he was getting rid of dissent or people who might charge him with a crime, yada, yada, yada. It's back and forth. But it should be done by the executive, as the FBI is under the executive branch. They execute the laws of the country. The FBI is great and honorable people, but the leadership was inept and corrupt. I would think that you would personally be appalled by these revelations, because in your press conference the day you announced impeachment, you tied the impeachment effort directly to the completely discredited Russia hoax, declaring twice that all roads lead to Putin, when you know that is an abject lie. I've been far tougher on Russia than President Obama ever even thought to be. Any member of Congress who votes in support of impeachment against every shred of truth, fact, evidence, and legal principle is showing how deeply they revile the voters and how truly they detest America's constitutional order. Our founders feared the tribalization of partisan politics, and you are bringing their worst fears to life. I mean, that's been going on for a while, though. I can't lay all of that at the feet of 2020 Democrats. That's a little strong. Worse still, I have been deprived of basic constitutional due process from the beginning of this impeachment scam right up until the present. I've been denied the most fundamental rights afforded by the Constitution, including the right to present evidence, to have my own counsel present, to confront accusers, and to call and cross-examine witnesses, like the so-called whistleblower who started this entire hoax with a false report of the phone call that bears no relationship to the actual phone call that was made. Once I presented the transcribed call, which surprised and shocked the fraudsters. They never thought that such evidence would be presented. The so-called whistleblower and the second whistleblower disappeared because they got caught. Their report was a fraud, and they were no longer going to be made available to us. In other words, once the phone call was made public, your whole plot blew up, but that didn't stop you from continuing. Yeah, Mark Zaid, where's your whistleblower? More due process was afforded to those accused in the Salem witch trials. They got some. You and others on your committees have long said impeachment must be bipartisan. It is not. You said it was very divisive. It certainly is, even far more than you ever thought possible, and it will only get worse. That's true. Impeachment is extremely divisive. It's an actual risk. I'm not saying what it's going to sound like I'm saying, but it is a risk to the safety of society. It's a risk because you're telling half the country that their vote no longer counts, right? It's a terrifying thing. Oh, and the person you're removing from office has all the guns in the country at his command. Could arrest you for treason. He could deploy the National Guard to arrest Congress, in theory. It would be a mess. What would we do? What do you do against that? Do you think the court solves that problem? No. War solves those problems. Impeaching a president is extremely, extremely divisive. This is nothing more than an illegal partisan attempted coup that will, based on recent sentiment, badly fail at the voting booth. Well, yeah, I guess it will go to the voting booth technically, eventually. You're not just after me as president, you are after the entire Republican Party. But because of this colossal injustice, our party is more united than it has ever been before. Shame on you, Democrats. History will judge you harshly as you proceed with this impeachment charade. That's the other thing. There are Democrats who may actually oppose impeachment, even if they don't like Trump, even if they may just think that it's a better solution, especially this late in the presidency, to beat him at the ballot box. But by pushing impeachment, you divide the Democratic Party. You may unite the majority of the Republican Party who feels like this is a partisan attack, who feels like their the will of them as voters is attempting to be overdone by people who they disagree with. It very much can look like a coup to impeach someone. The Republicans learned this in 94 or whatever when they impeached Bill. 94? Whenever they impeached Bill, they learned very quickly how damaging it was. They got smoked in Congress. Your legacy will be that of turning the House of Representatives from a revered legislative body into a star chamber of partisan persecution. Perhaps the most insulting of all is your false display of solemnity. You apparently have so little respect for the American people that you expect them to believe that you are approaching this impeachment somberly, reservedly, and reluctantly. No intelligent person believes what you are saying. Since the moment I won the election, the Democrat Party has been possessed by impeachment fever. There is no reticence. This is not a somber affair. You're making a mockery of impeachment, and you are scarcely concealing your hatred of me, of the Republican Party, and tens of millions of patriotic Americans. The voters are wise, and they are seeing straight through this empty, hollow, and dangerous game you are playing. I have no doubt the American people will hold you and the Democrats fully responsible in this upcoming 2020 election. They will not soon forgive your perversion of justice and abuse of power. There is far too much that needs to be done to improve the lives of our citizens. It is time for you and the highly partisan Democrats in Congress to immediately cease this impeachment fantasy. Get back to work for the American people. While I have no expectation that you will do so, I write this letter to you for the purpose of history and to put my thoughts on a permanent and indelible record. 100 years from now, when people look back at this affair, I want them to understand it and learn from it so that it can never happen to another president again. So that is the letter that Trump wrote. Strong words, very, very firmly worded letter. Trump is officially a white girl, right? Wrote a letter. He's officially a white girl, a white chick, due to his letter writing, and that's great. We'll see. Impeachment, man. I don't think they have the votes. And that's going to be a big problem. And if you aren't successful on impeachment, oh man, politically very, very risky. Should Trump be impeached? No. You don't have to like him. You could want to vote him out. That's fine. I didn't really want to vote him in. I didn't really want to vote anybody in by the time the election rolled around. But, you know, he makes a good case for what he's done for the economy, what he's done for the average person. Taxes are somewhat lower for people who pay them. Tax breaks are a little higher for people as well. I mean, he doubled the minimum, the automatic deduction. He also, I think, didn't they remove the mortgage credit, or like limited the mortgage credit pretty severely, and doubling the automatic deduction? I mean, it helped a lot of people, but if you itemized it, it still helped you, but it's kind of weird because now you have to donate a lot more money to itemize and stuff like that. But he did these things, and he's got historically low unemployment, and the economy is doing pretty well when all of the articles about the economy are how the economy is doing so well it can't last, right? And he just got to tell it to everybody. He just got to write down what was going on with his presidency. Does any of what he said have any impact on whether or not he should be impeached? No. Not at all. Either way. That's the whole point of impeachment that's been lost in this impeachment fiasco. Probably in the previous ones as well. But they don't have to have reasons that are legal. And there is no review. Like there is no, I'm going to appeal my impeachment to the Supreme Court. He might try if they actually get impeached. A president may try to do that. Supreme Court's going to ignore it. You say, no, that's a political question. The House and Senate, that's their authority. We can't step on that. Now, again, where they can is on these subpoena questions. Does he have to comply with the subpoena? Does he have to turn over documents? Does he have to do these things? The procedural stuff that's part of everything leading up to the impeachment, that goes to Supreme Court for questioning and for clarification. Impeachment itself, it's a vote. It's a vote. So there's that. All right, guys, let me go ahead, read the remaining chats that we've got, and then that'll be that. We'll shut this bad boy down. We've got Sigma Zero says letter was great, nutty, but in a very sincere way. He's talking about the earlier letter, not the Trump letter. This was sent before the Trump letter. This was like an episode of Fred Knudson's Down the Rabbit Hole. Letter guy did nothing wrong. Keep him coming. Oh man, I thought the letter was fantastic. So, and certainly I don't think the letter guy did anything wrong. I mean, he may do some things wrong, and again, I may disagree with his opinions, but Hot Fuzz says, "Come on, Nikki, are you dividing the submarine? Happy birthday." Are you diving the submarine? What's diving the submarine? D-Man Dog 056 says, Nick, if you could pick a studio in Japan for AT&T to sell Ruby to, if and when Rooster Teeth collapses, which one would you pick? Just curious. I say Trigger or Bones. I don't know anything about Japanese studios. I'm the least qualified person on earth to answer that question. Also, can you day stream more often? I haven't done a day stream in a very long time. I want to day stream more on Twitch. So yes, but I have to, December's a hard month to start this stuff. So I might have to wait until January or February to do that. Andrew War Snowboard says, I'll be in Austin for 5 days in February. What's there? Oh, buddy, food. Just go eat. Go eat it. Go eat at Franklin's Barbecue or Black's Barbecue. Don't go to the Black's in Austin, though. Go to Black's in Lockhart. You can find anything in Austin. They have lots of good food. Just go find some stupid hipster place. Plug your ears, but open your mouth. Never know what you'll get in that situation. David Groth says Russell Greer is starting a federal lawsuit against Taylor Swift again. You got to do a show reading this one. Break out the scotch. No, another one? Come on. Might be time to call Sriracha. Kakalotuzaru says, just sent you something on Twitter. Might want to check it out. Laughs guaranteed, I hope. Did you tag me on Twitter? That's not the best way to do it. Man, who knows? Oh yeah, and we do have to talk about Christopher Hook. I have no idea what you sent me on Twitter, sorry. We do have to talk about Christopher Hook because that drama between him and the judge is escalating. I'm still working on getting him on the show. He went on Adam Carolla's show, so you could check out an interview with him on Adam Carolla's podcast. I forget what it's called. You know what it is. It's a show on YouTube. And I'm still trying to reach out to him, but I would love to have him on. But we'll see. He may not want to come on after this. The judge, he has resigned from the case. The judge did apparently sanction him. Which, I mean, it's kind of... I'm not surprised. I don't think it should happen, but I'm not surprised that it did. I still want to talk to him about it, but the judge has demanded that he resign from being an attorney and vowed to do everything in his power to stop him from being an attorney. That, you know, he should probably appeal the sanction based on that alone. But, so... You'll jump through the screen and break whatever's in my hands. Oh, sorry. Is that annoying? It's just this ridge knife. I'm just flipping it open and closed. I'll put it down. Sorry. Sorry, my attention. Anyway. Okay, back to where we are. Joseph Kerwin says, as an ignorant mass, I am offended by his stereotyping of ignorant masses. Joseph Kerwin says, sir, this is a Denny's. Dovin Death says, this guy sounds like Zoom. Last Sigil says, the eye of Horus is upon you. Phantom RA Cast says, I'll be the biggest fan you'll ever lose. Sincerely yours, Stan. P.S. We should be together too. Al Capone, that's a good name, man. I mean, somebody needs to get paid for that. Fusilization says, hey, you seen Jim's new video, Slip and Slide? I have not. Shining Nebula says, thank you for that Brain AIDS email, Nick. It's been a hot minute since I super chatted. Take my money, you grifter, and get something tasty with it. Will do. Thank you. Gunnar Renee Oy says, all presidents are king. If he breeds, impeach. Mario Carter 13 says, Trump ethered the Democrats. Absolutely brutal. Jason of the Great Awakening says, so Senate really is the key, like QAnon said. I mean, it's like the Constitution said. It's not, I mean, QAnon may have said the Senate is the key, but the Constitution explicitly states that the Senate is the key. So QAnon didn't reveal anything there. Nothing surprising in that statement. Some Nobody says, 3, hit the like button, MFers. Curious items inside said, any plans to talk about what's going on in Virginia? Yes. Yes, I have plans to talk about it. We'll see. We'll see. Not tonight, but yes. Sakaki Onsai says, UK election 2019 is a precursor to the US election 2020. Bank it. Colin Peterson and Jeff Vandrew are leading. Poor Michelle Fischbach. Hashtag CD7 once more. Colin Peterson opposed impeachment as well. So, Colin Peterson, if you don't know, is the Democrat in my district, the Democrat representative in my district, which is a very Republican district. But Colin Peterson has deep ties as the chair of the Agriculture Committee, and he gets a lot of support from the beet farmers in the area who get a lot of support directly from your government. So, you know, you're welcome to the beet farmers and thank you to the taxpayers or whatever. But Colin Peterson is a gun-toting, I believe, pro-life Democrat, one of the few left. And it's the only thing you could be in this area and still be a Democrat. But yeah, he opposed impeachment as well because he knows that if he supports it, he probably loses the election. Gawker's Death Rattle says, had to fire someone today. F for him. Maybe me too. Oh, man. That sucks. That sucks. You don't get fired, I hope, for firing him. Trashtown TV says, did you hear that Mars Girl has her own brand of whiskey coming out next year? It's an unholy combination of America, Fuyu, and her own orangutan sweat. Oh. Oh, that's gross. Siren Jack says, good night. My job now sucks. Nick, check your P.O. box. Amazon tells me there's something for you there. Okay, buddy. I was going to go buy today, but I grabbed the wrong set of keys, so I'll go buy tomorrow. All right, y'all. Thank you. Thank you so much for hanging out tonight. I am going to go to Twitch in just a little bit. Let me set up the My Room Records whiskey drinking lawyer song. Can I just download this? I think I can. Hold on. Let me more download file. Oh, Christ. There we go. This one? Oh, there we go. All right, the whiskey drinking lawyer mix 1. We'll put it here in music. Save. And then I don't want Go Plus. I don't know what that even is. All right, let me. I'm doing this on the fly, so we can get the whiskey drinking lawyer song back on the docket here. Let's play some. Soundboard. Play audio. This is what we want. Title. Outro. File. Music. Whiskey drinking lawyer. Okay. We'll see if this works. Are we ready? Oh, I gotta turn on the volume for you. Oh, there it is! We've got an outro again! Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along with his.
All right, guys. Well, there you go. There is the stream for tonight. Sorry, it's a short one. Like I said, I don't want to just sit here and yak for another hour for no purpose. But I will be over on Twitch. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's happened. Chaos Bane got a new DLC and update. We've got whatchamacallit. Risk of Rain 2 just got an update. I'm looking at a couple new games. I kind of feel like I should get Red Dead Redemption, just ride around the West shooting people. Who knows? Texan83 says, Nick, did you ever play the video you mentioned in your tweet? I've been in and out of consciousness since getting home from work. No, I didn't. We'll do it on a different show. It's kind of funny. It's not the funniest thing, but it's just an example of bad acting or bad deposition acting, but no fights or anything like that. So, all right, guys. Let's call it a night. I will talk to you soon. Peace. Peace.
Bring that perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed, so pour out a glass for the tea. Post on Twitter as we hear Lost Blaming tonight. From the wide shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the throng better than Nick. So pour